here's my final presentation. Because of circumstances, I was unable to record it on my laptop, so I'm just recording my laptop with my phone. I hope that's okay. My name is Halle Tucker, and I'm just going to be sharing about how one person transformed my view of mental and physical disabilities. Let's get started. So I'm going to be talking about 3 different principles that impacted me from the reading and from Professor Hill's lectures. Number 1, mental challenges can be a heavy trial for families. Most definitely, they're not always positive. They definitely, I think we need to acknowledge the hurt and the pain that comes from that, no matter how we try to disguise it. Number 2, the disabilities in the family can improve family unity. Such trials like this really can tear families apart or bring them together. And it's up to you to decide, if you're in that situation, what the outcome is going to be. And lastly, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react. I think it's important for us to realize that in some cases, we can't control what other people's actions are. We can't control other people's agency, and we can't control the natural man. Our agency lies in how we react to it and how we respond. I'm going to be discussing these 3 principles from the past, the present, and then the future, and just kind of be sharing some stories with you and how this really impacted me and led up to the discoveries that I've made after looking through the readings and had So first of all, I'm going to talk about mental challenges can be a very heavy trial for families. I've witnessed this firsthand. My uncle had a major brain injury when he was a baby, and unfortunately was diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses, including Tourette syndrome, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, very quick temper, very unstable and hostile, and only as he grew up, it just got worse. It became very abusive and toxic to family members, and I've seen it personally affect my dad, who's been the only lifeline for him. Ever since I can remember until this time in my life, I had always viewed mental and physical disabilities as a trial, as a negative, something that's bad, and that it can never be used as a positive, because I never saw that in my life. I think it's important to realize that there are a lot of people struggling out there, silently struggling, and I think there's a big stigma around mental and physical illnesses that we can slowly conquer. Which brings me to disabilities in the family can improve family unity. I just want to tell you a quick story about my friend Christian Terry. When he had come home from his LDS mission serving in Louisiana, 6 months later he was in a car accident that disabled him. Mentally he's completely there, but he's unable to move his limbs. He's not paralyzed. He just lost the mind-to-muscle connection. I was hired 6 years later, last year for me, as one of his occupational therapists. We did speech therapy and physical therapy with him every day. To get on a soapbox real quick, he changed my life. He's the best example of strength, of light, and grit, and enduring, and turning the bad into something good. He changed people's lives, and I really think that his mission on earth was to inspire people, was to be light for people, to show people what you can do and what you can accomplish. And life's hard, but you can do hard things. And if we haven't learned that already from Dr. Hill, then start listening. 3 months after I started working for Chris, there's nothing else in this world that would make me happier, that could always put a smile on my face. I learned so much from him. And 3 months later, I got a call that he unexpectedly passed away in the middle of the night. And I never really had death close to me before, and it really tore me apart. And it still does a year later. It's still been hard. But I think with the knowledge of the gospel, there's no way that we can grieve or mourn for too long before knowing that because of this slight temporary change, I get to be with him all the time. I get to talk to him all the time. Chris was a big example of how to bring families and people together. Anyone who met him was touched by him, even though he couldn't speak or talk. His family came together because of it. They united. Their relationships were stronger. They were all centered around one cause and one purpose. And Dr. Hill has taught us in lectures and readings that if our life is filled with purpose and with why and surrounded by our values, that we can never go wrong. Chris changed my view on the stigma of mental and physical disabilities. And lastly, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react. There are lots of trials in our lives that we're going to go through, lots of things that we won't be able to control, frankly. We can't control other people's agency. We can't control the natural man. We can't control what God has planned for us, and God knows best. And I had always been terrified of having a mental or physical disability in my family and how I would even begin to handle that, how I'd even begin to deal with it. And because of Chris and his light and example, I'm not scared. I'm confident. I look at other people like Chris was, and just completely feel for them, empathize with their family, and just have all the respect and love in the world for them. And I truly believe that if we strive to look at our families and our trials that we face as families, such as physical and mental disabilities, that it can not be used to tear our families apart, but to bring them closer together. And if we turn to the right people, if we turn to God, if we turn up to God and inward to our families, that we can never go wrong and that we can get through anything. We can improve our family relationships. And I just consider myself super grateful that I was able to meet him and that he was able to change my life in that way.